What up, guys, and welcome to Project Afterlife. Let's begin the game. This game was made in a week, so let's see what they did in a week. Hello, lady. I'm part of a team studying what happens to human consciousness after we die. That doesn't sound terrible at all. What happens when we die? Where do we go? What does it feel like? Is there a heaven or a hell? We didn't know, but we wanted to. I suppose this... God, guys! Where everything... I guess... No, what the frick are we doing? We didn't know, but we wanted to. I suppose that's where everything went wrong. Right out of the gate. We wanted to play guard, or at least learn the rules of the game, to see behind the curtain for just a moment, if only so we could know what to expect when the lights went out and we said that final good night. Well, this is probably going to end really terrible, lady. I'm telling you now, swearing to you that we never intended for things to go wrong the way they did. So she traveled back in time to tell us this. The people that lost their lives knew what they were getting into. They signed releases, paperwork. Oh, great, cool. They agreed to let us do what we did, just so long as we promised to handsomely compensate their families. Oh yes, the sweet monettes, the sweet greenies. And we did. We held up our end of the bargain, but I've come to bargain, to the tune of $13 million per family. But things like this, they never work out the way they're meant to do. I know that. I did. I think that on some level all of us did. But the people who were funding us had no idea. They wanted results. Be messy, they said. If that's what it takes, do whatever you need to do to figure out what happens in the sequel to Life, and make it snappy, because this funding is running on an hourglass, and that sand is slipping out. Okay, that's where things go very wrong, guys. So we cut corners, we pushed people in ways that in retrospect were irresponsible and dangerous. But we did it for the common good. We did it for you, for all of us, for the benefit of future generations who could look death in the eyes without the horror of not knowing what come next. Well, I mean, death is a thing that we all think about, and we all have to just accept happens. But I guess there are people out there that wants to know. It was a good thing. It really was. We called it Project Afterlife. Yes, of course. That makes total sense. I mean, it is whatever happens after life. Connect the diodes, the diodes, please. Alright, very normal procedure. Amanda, do we have a connection? Yes. We do. Ready? When you are. Alright, let's do this, Amanda. Initiate Afterlife sequence. Kill him. Oh, what am I supposed to... Output console, input console, vital signs, initiate Afterlife sequence. Let's go. Subject 1, female in her 30s. Suffered catastrophic liver failure, excessive use of alcohol related. Oh, don't drink too much alcohol, guys. They've been dead for 3 days. No one has ever come back after 3 days. Oh. The point was to let them taste the cold kiss of death, and then tear their soul back into the land of the living long enough to give us a play-by-play of what happened while they were away. This sounds very terrible, and if it actually works, extremely painful for whoever is going to do this, because I guess they get their feelings back when they come back. The 3-day timeline was a tricky one, even though the corpse was dead, even though the cadaver was cold, beginning to cellularly decompose. I don't know what that word is. We needed to keep it fresh enough to host life. Oh my god. Okay. Don't get me wrong. The life it hosted didn't last long, but it lasted long enough. I still remember the pulse of excitement that shot through the room when the woman opened her eyes. Or whatever the fuck was left of them after 3 days of decomposing. Initiate Afterlife sequence. Oh my god. Agents, can you hear my voice? Where am I? You're with friends. Safe. Yes, of course, they are all friends paid by a giant corporation to bring you back from the dead. Do you remember the study you agreed to be a part of? Death. That's right, Agnes. We wanted to know what happens to the soul after death, and you agreed to take that journey and return to us. You're the first human being to have done so. Congratulations. We belong to them. Oh, Agnes, I'm sorry. To whom are you referring? We belong to the forgotten. Oh, where the freak did the blood come from? Hold her? What comes next is worse than any hell. The machine monitoring her vitals began to beep violently, indicating levels were grossly out of range. There we go, words. And her head exploded. Agnes Mike had died for the second time. That sounds great. Not really. It's kinda like what Vision went through. We had her corpse carted to the morgue for an autopsy and discovered that her brain had substantially swelled up, causing her skull to crack open. Yes, her heart had ruptured in her chest, and most bizarrely of all, her vocal cords had been severed, as if something had lit them aflame. Okay, I don't know. They've been burnt, guys. Her results were ominous, to say the least, but we were intelligent enough to know that a sample size of 1 does not make a conclusion, and so we eagerly awaited our second subject. Yes, guys, get more than 1 sample when you do any kind of tests. Ooh, who is this guy? This one was a young girl named Charlotte, that's her name now. Charlotte. She had been struck by a vehicle in a hit and run and fallen into a coma. Oh, so she's not dead. Her parents never had an opportunity to say goodbye, and so they agreed to allow us to perform our study so long as they were there for her revival. Oh, is that her parents? No, that's her parents. Oh. What is input console? This is the input console. Here we specify all the different levels of fluids we need to revive our subject. Okay. Subject 2, female, a teenager, was hit by a speeding vehicle. I clicked a few keys on the computer console and the machine began its mechanical song. A moment later, and the screen flashed green as it initiated its afterlife sequence. Alright. Hello? Charlotte's unmoving cadaver was filled with a myriad of chemicals and electric pulses designed to shock her brain into functioning. The girl's feet began to twitch, then her fingertips. Her mother and father looked at one another, grasping hands as they waited for their daughter to return to them. Hopefully tears leaked from the corners of their eyes. Their lips muttering silent words of affirmation as they prepared to say goodbye to their daughter. But then, pain! Extreme pain. Oh, god dang it, what's happening? Everything seems to be fine. It's difficult to describe the sound of Charlotte's scream. I'm hesitant to say it was human, let alone the sound of a teenage girl. Oh, it's a demon. It was most similar, I feel, to a drowning sheep. It was an anguish bleating. It was extremely painful sound, one that seemed never ending, and yet it told a terrifying story all on its own. Eventually, Charlotte's parents made the decision to pull the plug on their daughter. It was the second time they'd made the decision in a little under a week. Oh, let's kill her one more time. Oh, this looks like a prisoner. The last subject was the one that stuck with me. The one that haunts me to this day. And the reason I'm writing this now, sharing this with all of you. His name was Jacob. He was sentenced to death after doing some gruesome things to some tribal villagers while traveling in South America. He'd been researching for material to a book he was writing called The Meaning of Life. He'd participated in hundreds of rituals across dozens of tribes. He'd tried everything from peyote to DMT. Drugs, I guess. Leveraging any drug he could get his hands on that promised psychedelic insights. Oh, interesting. Into the other world. Things went wrong, however, when he went on a bloody rampage during a psychotic episode. That's why he approached our small project and asked to be included. When we informed him it was only for those suffering from terminal afflictions, he asked if he could be added to the list anyway, sort of like an organ donor. We agreed. Jacob was sent to the electric chair the following weekend. Oh, alright. Subject 3, male, nearing his 40s, was sentenced to death after killing multiple tribal villagers in South America. Alright. Once again, I watched from behind the glass. Once again, Roger waited patiently, a hopeful smile on his face. 20 seconds passed and nothing occurred. Not so much as a twist of a toe or a flick of an eyelash. Jacob's corpse remained every bit as dead as the day we carted him in. A minute went by, and we still saw no sign of resurrection. Amanda, can you check the monitors? I think it might be malfunctioning. Oh, I don't think it's malfunctioning. I swallowed. I triple-checked the machines and made sure it was functioning to specification, I guess, just as it had the last 2 times. The wires checked out. The programming was running to spec. All the diodes were in the correct place. I don't see any issues here. And then, maybe some people can't be brought back. Have you seen it? Jacob, do you remember the study you agreed to participate in? I remember everything. I've seen too much. And what was that? What came next after you died? Everything that I feared. The nightmares were real. Oh. What do you think happens after we die, Doctor? I'm not certain. We all believe different things, I suppose. We were hoping you could answer that for us, Jacob. Oh. We believe, and believe. We believe so many different things, and we so desperately want them to be true. But the only truth is that we return to the forgotten. The forgotten. It was a face we heard before from Agnes. I'd assumed it referred to human beings like those who died in meaningless wars or in periods of widespread misfortune, and yet the emphasis that Jacob placed upon it. The forgotten. What are the forgotten? It was miraculous that he was standing at all, but that he remained living after several minutes was something neither of the other two subjects managed. Not what, but whom. Our minds are finally made. They evolved over millennia to mask reality, to mask the bitter, bitter truth of the universe. You want to know what happens when we die? We return to the abyss that birthed us. I had a vision of the end. I saw our makers, and they were dressed in dying stars and empty space. They were hopeless, empty, but just like us, they wanted medicine, a way to feel. We are their medicine. Our minds are primed for love, for joy, and for pleasure. And when we die, they feed on us. They leave our souls empty and rotting until we are rebirthed into the next human, a little less whole, a little less complete, a little closer to putting a bullet through our skulls. What else can you tell us? That we began with meaning, but as they fed, and they fed, we grew emptier, more incomplete. Collectively, the human soul weathered. Look around you. Do you feel the rage, the hatred, and the pain? It's consuming the human race like a plague, and bit by bit, we're getting worse, not better. Soon, we'll have nothing left to feel, no love, no joy, just emptiness. Roger's mouth hung open. His voice stuttered as he attempted to formulate a response, to articulate way he must be wrong. At least that's what I had hoped for. I'd hoped for anybody to stand up and say this was all a farce, farce. I don't know what that word is. And the experiment had been compromised, and none of this could be true. But nobody did. If you want to know what comes next, I can show you. Death. Oh, well, they will all know now. He also got immense strength. Oh, that's the brain over there. That's great. After that, our funding was pulled. Our donor abandoned the project and scrubbed his involvement from any and all corporate records. As far as this significant scientific community was concerned, the experiments never occurred, and the findings didn't exist. But I remember because there's simply no way I could forget the haunting look in Agnes' eyes, the hopeless agony of Charlotte's screams, or the final message that Jacob delivered in a pool of blood on the linoleum floor. It was messy and easy to miss to the others. I think it must have looked like a common splatter, a simple side effect of his legs spasming in the pool of blood. But I know what I saw. The letters, through crooked and barely legible, were scourged into my memory like a cattled brand. They weren't so much a warning as they were words of advice, perhaps an answer to the question we set out to ask, and the question that Jacob had set out to answer in his book. The meaning of life, he wrote, is to avoid the agony of death. That's great, but we do die anyway, guys. Created by Kisurats, I guess. Thank you for playing Project Afterlife, a game based on the story by Bourne Beach from r slash Tales from something. Alright guys, that was Project Afterlife. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.